America's National Park of Speed, and the blast through the trees here in Elkhart Lake definitely make it feel like it. But with little room for error in many places, this will not be a walk in the park. So pick a good spot to camp out and get ready for the PCA Sim Racing Series 13 Club Class. You'll see it all live here on Race Spot TV. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth tonight is Mike Naus. As always, behind the scenes is our director, Hugo Luis. Now, we're thrilled to have Princess Cruises as the 2025 PCA title sponsor. As the official cruise vacation partner of Series 13, they provide exclusive offers, including world-leading itineraries across a fleet of 16 elegant ships, sailing to more than 330 global destinations. Reach out to the PCA concierge team to book your next adventure today by calling 833-679-2188. PCA is also proud to announce that they are celebrating their 70th anniversary in 2025. Here's to many more decades with North America's largest Porsche enthusiast group. Let's take a look at the schedule here, Mike, because we are now on the downward trend towards the last few rounds.
We're getting down to the wire, Joe, as the championship winds down here. We've been to Daytona, we've been to Portugal, Canada, Silverstone. Now we head to America for the namesake track, Road America, 4 miles of action. Up next after that, we have the Hungaroring, and of course, last but not least, on April 10th is the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo Dino Ferrari, otherwise known as Imola.
And for this track itself, Road America, obviously, it's going to be a popular one. A lot of drivers and fans do love this place, but most notably about it, it is long. As you can see on our map here, over 4 miles over these 14 turns, but it's also very fast. The run from 14 to turn 1, the longest straightaway on the track, going to be very important to offer passing opportunities. But more than that, watch for the run down into turn 5 along the moraine sweep. Many drivers will try and outbrake one another into that sharp left-hander, but it is downhill and it can be tricky. Big talking points, though. The kink has seen a lot of drivers go off here today, and then Canada Corner seems to attract a little bit of drivers running into one another. But real quick, here is our current situation on the driver standings. Alan Hales up at the top by only 30 points over Britt Danley. So it is tight this late in the season. Josh Jeppesen a little bit farther behind, could play catch up, but it's been a bit inconsistent at the top. Somebody who could get some good results more across the board could start to run away with things here, Mike. But it's not the only battle that they're fighting in this championship. They also are fighting for a clean driver award too.
Of course, here at the Porsche Championship, we pride ourselves on the fact that we have a clean drivers championship. And well, it used to be so just about 2 weeks or about 4 weeks ago at this point. Alan Hales had 0 incident points to his name. He was trying to go the whole season without one, but nonetheless, he has 2 points to his name now. Jepsen down to 8, as well as Ed Trippett. And you can see down the order, the incident points, well, Joe, they rack up. And of course, as the championship goes on, and Road America here today is probably going to add a couple more to that tally.
Definitely a few places where it's going to be easy to go just a little bit wide, but this is not a track that has a lot of paved runoff, so you can't abuse it too much. This is Torrigiani, who was our quickest in the warm-up, but nobody has set a lap time yet here in the qualifying session. They'll get 3 laps to try and put their fastest lap down, and no more than that. Patrizio can try and back up that time in practice here to see if he can go just as quickly. And he's coming down towards the end of what I believe is his first flying lap into Canada Corner now. So just a few to go here, Mike, to prove himself.
Around the high-speed final corners here, and then, of course, this is going to be where we were talking about right before. The high-commitment left-hander with a car, just the back end trying to overtake the front, manages to keep it very well-rounded here, gets onto the brakes for the final corner. Long acceleration zone now up the hill, the Road America straight, all the way down to turn 1. He's going to keep going. Let's see, though, what's it going to be for the lap times? It's going to be a 2:05.9. Going to be up enough for, well, a little bit down the yard. It's enough for pole, excuse me.
Yeah, just managed to beat out Dave Douglas by 0.5 of a second. So looks like he is able to back up what he was showing before. Douglas still has 2 more laps, but then so does Patricio as well. Interesting to note that Torrigiani, his best finish so far this season, a 5th place. So if he can bring this one home with a win, it'll be a big boon to his points. As we watch Alan Hales in the meantime, our driver who is leading the points, wasn't looking terribly great in the practice in terms of times here, Mike, but he definitely wasn't looking like he was going to challenge for a win.
The one advantage here, though, that I have to say that Alan Hales has over the rest of the drivers in his general vicinity for points is the fact that he has a drop round still available. And you might say, well, of course, all the drivers still have a drop round available. Yes, but Alan Hales has consistently delivered result after result. And his worst race right now is 260 points. That's nothing to shake a stick at. And if you look down the order, Britt Danley, he has a 0-point show at Portimao, which is going to hurt him. If he has a bad result in any one of these upcoming races, he is going to be down the order a little bit in Jeppesen at 100 points, his worst result 140 being there as well. A lot of these drivers around him have to be sort of on their tiptoes, while Alan Hales, he has a little bit more freedom.
Well, he doesn't have as much freedom in this qualifying. I just looked at his first lap time, and, well, it didn't count. He must have had an off track somewhere. So he's only got these 2 laps to try and put a good one in. Otherwise, he's going to be starting at the back of the field, which I guess if you're going to do that, this is a place where you can at least make some passes to try and push forward, but it's not going to be an easy one to get a good result as he comes off the final turn. Let's see what his lap winds up looking like as George Poulos just took the fastest of anybody and goes to the provisional pole. Cross the line for Hales. 2:07.2. That's only good enough for 13th, which is about where he was in practice.
It's a banker lap at least, but yeah, definitely not where he wants to be. Not towards the pointy end of the spear, sort of like Britt Danley, or as we now see up at the top, Nick Paglia, all the way to the pole position, or the 2:05.5, nearly 1.5 tenths. Here, though, is on board with Britt Danley for a little bit. This is going to be one of those better overtaking opportunities. In fact, as we were saying, the best overtaking chance into that corner and then up the hill. This is a pretty easy spot for the back end to step out. You can see there, but we'll be seeing that a little bit more when we go with our pole sitters lap. And, well, is it going to be Britt Danley? This might be the lap, Joe, that we see later on.
Let's watch and see. Doesn't look like the first sector was anything incredible. He has been pushed down a little bit here. Or no, excuse me, I was thinking of Hales. We're on board with Danley. Apologies. Watching to see what his next lap is as he comes off of the carousel towards the kink. It's pretty flat out in these cars these days, even though they're GT3 cars, maybe just a breathe of the throttle. And then it's trying to line up your braking down into Canada corner.
Now, long ways before you get onto the binders here, down into third gear and ease back onto the accelerator. And now you really just have to hold on, because this is where the bucking Bronco you can see over the curb starts to happen and into the final corner. And this is almost easy compared to what you just have to go through. And onto the accelerator and a big lift, and almost certainly that's going to be an invalid lap. And on top of that, Joe, is that going to hurt their next lap, or was that their final lap?
This is the final lap for Britt. So coming across the line now, and it did not count. Good catch on that last corner, so that must have been just a little bit too far. Still third place, not a bad place to be at the start of this one. It's down in sixth. Robbie Gerwing out of the final turn and up the hill, currently on a 2:06.1. That's about half a second off the pole time. And I'm showing him not improving on my time and in scoring. And indeed, he does not go quicker. So sixth is the best he'll see. We've got about 40 some seconds left for the last of our drivers to complete their laps.
Next up, Antonio De Silva. There's a couple drivers before him, but he's looking quite quick right now. And into the final sector he's going to go. Just has a couple more to tackle here. You can see so far the driver's very high commitment. You mentioned in these GT3 cars, especially these Porsches. Of course, the 4.2-liter flat six naturally aspirated engine powering them along with about 465 Newton meters of torque, as well as 565 horsepower. These cars are prim, they're proper, and they are, by the true definition, machines. Antonio De Silva, is he going to have a mechanical-like performance up to the top? No, not quite.
He's the last one that's able to set a time from here because clock is now over. So that is our qualifying through and our grid set for this event. Two drivers not able to set a time, Garamani and McCune towards the back. Everybody else did manage to at least put one up to show what their pace is. Sure, it's certainly going to be hard for those two at the back. In the meantime, Nick Paglia has got the pole over George Poulos, who will start to his outside. Britt Danley did at least stay in third. Patrizio Torrigiani briefly on the top spot, but then shuffled back to fourth. Dave Douglas was fifth, and Rob Gerling stays in sixth. Then you've got Marcos Souza starting in seventh today. Antonio De Silva in eighth, and Josh Jeppesen, P9. Top 10 going to be rounded out by Vernon Messer. Row 6 has Alan Hales to the inside and Robert Glaze to the outside. Mike?
Kevin Hammond bringing up 13th position. Lucky number for some. Let's see tonight with Andrew Hillman alongside in 14th. Ed Trippett 15th position with Johan Nye in P16. 17th belonged to Anthony DiVincenzo with Alex Litteblock behind. 19th in for John Kaplan. 20th to Lisa Eskridge. Brad Dunn down in 21st with Jeffrey Block in 22nd. James Legal in 23rd. And rounding out row 12 is going to be Keith Messerschmidt.
Then you get to Moody starting in 25th, followed by Stevenson in 26th, Adam Holland in P27, and Aubrey Iyer in 28th. Ben Whitehurst will start 29th today, with 30th going to John Chimples. And the last driver to set a time was Carl Bess in 31st. Garamani and McCune, as I said, going to be sent to the back at the start of this race. And they'll have so much work to do in this 60-minute event. We're going to ride on board for the pole lap. You want to talk us around how to be quick around here, Mike?
Absolutely, be my pleasure. The start-finish straight, pretty trivial. You get on the loud pedal and you stay on it. Now, once you start approaching turn one, this is where things start to get complicated. You think about the brakes, and as we start the descent slightly down the hill here, you want to mount that curb to the inside, back onto the accelerator as early as you can. Don't run wide. You'll bring the grass back out onto the circuit, and drivers won't like you. Now, into turn three, nice and easy rotation. Back onto the accelerator. Again, getting onto it as early as you can is key here at Road America, especially in these cars. Now, buckle up, wait for the ride here as we go down to the best overtaking chance. This is going to be down the Moraine sweep into turn 5, but for the qualifying, you want to stay as right as you possibly can. You paid for the track, you might as well use all of it. Same on exit. You got those curbs to run on, do it. Very tricky corner now into turn 6. Very off balance there. The rear end always trying to overtake the front. Now again, a more of a easy quote unquote section into the hurry downs here and heading towards the carousel where things get very, very nip and tuck in the race. You don't want to make a mistake here or you will be causing a parking lot on a Walmart at a Black Friday. Very easy. Nice and calm lift off here before you get nice and easy like there's an egg under your pedal on the accelerator. Back now towards the kink. This is where the danger can be. The back end steps out violently on either entrance or exit if you're not careful. And now settle in again. Kettle bottoms. Nice and easy as we get ready to go down towards turn 12, Canada corner, where this separates the men from the boys. High speed, high commitment. Not that we didn't just have that in the previous complex. Back onto the accelerator though, and through the left-hander, flat out in these Porsche GT3s, and the car is just squirming around. Nice and easy rotation on the final corner, back on the accelerator and heading towards the line, and that is going to be your pole lap here at Road America by Nick Paglia.
That's how you set a 2:05.5. A very good pole time, and not too far. You had made a prediction before we came live. I thought that we weren't going to get that close to it because I think our quickest time was a 2:05.8. in the practice session. But what did you say, a 205.3 you were thinking?
Yep, that was what I was thinking, a 205.3.
Wow. So 2/10 off. Good call on that. As we check in with Torregliani here, and he comes up through that Bill Mitchell Bend section. Yeah, you can see, he talked about dragging grass onto there through the gravel of Canada Corner. We're probably going to see quite a bit of dirt and gunk off of there, as well as here where drivers are going to just wind up going wide out of turn 14, trying to get on the throttle up that steep hill to the finish line. The other thing we can't forget, Mike, is that we've got the pit stops here today. A little bit more of a narrow pit window, but it is proven to be a very important part of the race in each of the classes we've had so far.
Yes, certainly. We'll be looking at that kind of down towards the second half of the race. Once we get past that 30-minute mark and down towards 20 minutes left in the race, you'll be seeing pretty much everybody file in around that same time and taking more than likely a set of fuel or set of tires and fuel to go towards the end. Tire wear here at Road America is going to be a tricky one. This is a very abrasive circuit, Joe. And as these cars here get ready to start behind the Porsche iRacing pace car as well, this is where the nerves are going to be at their highest, especially for the challenge class. But the one thing I will say at this point, Joe, they've gotten quite used to each other out on track, I feel.
Absolutely. Like we talked about at the start of the show, this is well into Series 13, so these drivers have all gotten pretty comfortable racing close to one another. And more than that, the advantage for this challenge class is that we've had these 3 races, so they've been able to watch examples, see what the pitfalls are. I do kind of like that they send the highest and fastest class early, bringing it down to kind of the more entry level here at Challenge. There's our temperatures out on the circuit right now, 81 Fahrenheit, about looks like fluctuating between 9 and 12 miles an hour. Hopefully that doesn't buffet them around too much, as these cars do have a bit of aero on them, but that's not a stiff enough breeze that it'll affect them too badly. It just all depends on which direction it's blowing, because it could take away some top end speed down some of the longer straights, of which they're coming to the longest. Watching from the pace car, looking back at the field, Nick will now have control, but he has to wait for the call from the flag stand before he is allowed to accelerate away. Things were a little bit jumbled up for the start of the sport class last night. This looks a lot more orderly. Everybody in nice clean lines, and there's the green flag as they accelerate away. Nick gets a decent jump, but George is going to follow him, holding to the outside, coming down into turn 1. A few cars changing lanes now that they've passed the start-finish line and braking deep. George Poulos going to try and take that lead away. Not quite there. In behind them, so far so good. No incidents, but what about down into turn 3?
Trigiani looking to make moves now side by side with Stefan Danley, and it's going to be a bit deep for Danley. Trigiani, though, not able to keep it under wraps. Behind that, Dave Douglas licking his lips at the tasty morsel that is the Italian Stallion in front. Is he going to be thinking about the move here down into the Moraine Sweep? Well, doesn't really matter, because this is going to be George Poulos trying to take it to our leader. Side by side as they almost go into the contact, but coming out of the corner, it's going to be George Poulos as our new race leader.
He's already challenging into turn 1, and he's not taking no for an answer. He finally gets it down into 5. A little bit of contact, I think, between Torrigiani and Souza down into turn 6. We didn't quite see it on camera, but hopefully they didn't get too much damage from that. Still side by side coming down as the leader just went off on the exit here of turn 8, just off camera. So that might slow him up, and Paglia is back up to the top spot just like that.
And it's now 4 abreast. No, not quite. 4 in turn here as we go. The quartet of drivers up at the front and leaving, as we're now getting word here from our chat. It's Tregliani. My apologies there. Tregliani in the background. Patrizio in 5th right now. And there's contact between Poulos and Danley. And Danley stranded off into the kitty litter.
He gets it going pretty quickly, but he's still losing a lot of spots down in 9th, staying off to the side. Those tires are probably just absolutely full of rocks and would be hard to find grip. He'll actually slip down to 10th now as De Silva manages to sneak by. Paglia still our leader. Dave Douglas is in second, but he's almost 2 seconds behind P1. And Patrizio sits in third. Meanwhile, we got a nice little fight here. A little bit farther back coming into turn one. That is Poulos and De Silva along with Messner in behind them. Poulos with some work to do.
He's licking his wounds right now, and let's see a replay of that on board right now. And unfortunately for Poulos, absolutely nothing that he could have done there. He was a passenger in the entire ordeal. Danley there, you can see him dropping down to fourth as a result. He's now just ahead of Marco Souza. Damage is done, though, already. Poulos, he just has to keep his head down and look forward. Thankfully, as we were talking about, Joe, this is a not fairly easy track to overtake on, but when there's incidents like this, moves can get done wherever they are in the field.
Jeppesen and Gerwing, I think they may have had some contact heading into there, and both spun to the outside. Poor Robbie Gerwing is having to sit and wait this entire time to return to the track. Britt Danley might see a penalty with that contact from that replay that we saw. The stewards have not been shy of handing those out so far. So here's what brought us to that incident. And indeed, it was more contact coming into the braking zone.
Absolutely hate to see it, and just a bit of a bump and bang back on the rejoin as well for good measure. Thankfully, no love lost between the two, I would imagine, but that is going to be a race not done and dusted, but significantly more difficult for a couple of drivers here tonight. There's another replay. This looks like, is this going to be Poulos involved with something here? Oh, no, never mind. It's just a spinner all on their lonesome. That's the 24. They've dropped, who is that? Oh, man, that's Antonio De Silva all the way back to the 32nd position.
Well, he's going to pick up one pretty soon because they've already given a black flag to Gerwing for that incident down into turn 5. So he'll hand that over pretty shortly. In the meantime, we've jumped into the mid-pack here as we got a nice little fight between Lisa Eskridge, Markussen, and it looks like that's Moody in behind them as well. And the Roxy car of Adam Holland, hard to miss there in that bright green. But it's a very good run from Markussen on Lisa Eskridge. Going to have the slipstream up towards turn 1. She has not shut the door, but doesn't need to. Bit of a lift early from Keith.
Yeah, and still continuing that battle into the next few corners here. They're going to be really trying to set this one up here into the Moraine sweep, no doubt. Really just discretion being the better part of valor. Turn 1, while you can get it done in there, it's still a risky move. At the end of the day, you want to guarantee the move here if you're Keith and Lisa. I don't want to say the writing's on the walls here, but this has been a great championship for Lisa so far, where just consistency in finishing the race has put her almost in the, or well, firmly into the top 20, but nearing the top 15.
Who again leaves the door open. Deeper braking for Markussen. Not able to get to the inside, though. He's got to watch out behind. Moody is in that red and white machine and looks dangerously close, but wasn't able to execute on a pass there into turn 5. A string of cars in a line head down through the hurry downs into turn 8 once again. We saw a lot of this in the other races too, where cars just kind of get formed into these draft trains and have a little bit of difficulty getting out of them. Also an update, Mike, it looks like Britt Danley did indeed get a penalty for that contact.
Yeah, I mean, or Stefan Danley, or is that Britt Danley?
Yes. Oh, okay. I know, our timing and scoring says Stefan, but it's Britt.
Okay, Britt Danley, yes indeed. Okay, Britt Danley receiving that penalty, no surprise there, to be completely honest. That's going to be a 1 for it, and you know, it is what it is at the end of the day. They just have to look forward and, well, drive the race that they can.
And the Kink claimed another one. Moody wound up hitting the wall back there. Danley now serving the penalty. So that's, gotcha. That's Danley heading in. Gonna fall down the order, and it's way too early for a pit stop. So unfortunately, just gonna have to bite the bullet on this one. I hope that maybe they'll be able to get out in some clear air. Man, we've had a few incidents on this one. There was one into the final corner that I couldn't quite make out who it was, but with a couple cars spinning off to the outside in the grass. We're only 7 minutes into this thing as we take a glance at the 73 of Josh Jeppesen, sandwiched between DiVincenzo and Trippett.
And trying to continue that on. I also just wanted to put a little bit of emphasis here onto that contact with Britt Danley real quick. This is massive for the championship. Oh, goodness, Aubrey Iyer getting battered out of the way very rudely from the yellow Porsche. I'm not sure who that was, but definitely not quite welcome. Again, another one of those that you just kind of have to deal with because you're a passenger when it happens. But Britt Danley currently sitting in second into the championship heading into tonight. This is not going to be a drop round for him. His worst result is already 0 points. So this is going to play a massive hindrance. And Josh Jeppesen, if he can deliver, Ed Trippett, Dave Douglas, they're looking at an easy position here for second, at least in the championship.
Yeah, this will gain them a lot. Dave Douglas, though, definitely looking the best, sitting there in second place. The only sad thing for him is he is, looks like 130 points down from the lead. Whoa, something's happening here in the kink. Oh, Patrizio causing a massive accident, or at least part of a massive accident, I should say. And the 704 is amongst them, coming to a halt there along the concrete.
Oh, it looks like Traggiani just lost it by himself, I think. We'll have to certainly go back with the replay hole. Okay, reversing onto the circuit. That's always concerning. But thankfully, very bright colored car. It's hard to miss, but unfortunately for, I'm not sure who that was, they did not miss. Oh, goodness. And Patrizio, yeah, that car is certainly going to need an assistance back to pit lane. It barely can get moving under its own steam.
I see Souza and Hammond, unfortunately, being part of that incident. So they're having to take some repairs for that one. Jeppesen down to the inside into turn one. He manages to take the apex away, but nice carry of speed from Trippett there on the outside. And that will hold on to that sixth place for him. Got to watch out for DiVincenzo in behind because he's going to try and spy an opportunity. Patrizio did get a black flag for causing this incident with the two other cars here. I'm just glad that I think it only involved those three and not more, because it was still very packed up back there.
Yeah, and you know, unfortunately, holy dive bomb in the background. Oh my goodness, that's Ed Trippett getting sent on by Josh Jeppesen. No, excuse me, that's Josh Jeppesen being sent on by Anthony DiVincenzo, getting a little bit feisty and antsy. But it's really, you know, unfortunate there for the Italian for just getting the black flag. I mean, yes, causing that incident is technically what happened. He did definitely cause it. There's no arguing that, but it wasn't like it was a malicious one or anything like that. He lost it all on his lonesome. I guarantee you that is a very, very sad man right now, unfortunately. And we definitely feel for you and Patrizio, and we hope, especially all the drivers getting taken out, have a better week next time round.
Yeah, unfortunately, Traggiani looks like he has retired from this race. The others look like they've gotten back out. Remember, they do have a spare car, so they can basically return to racing as if nothing happened, except the fact that they've now lost a lot of positions, of course. But at least they've got a whole car. Meanwhile, DiVincenzo still on the chase with Jeppesen and Trippett, like we were mentioning. These are all drivers that are close together in the points, so there's extra motivation to try and make these overtakes.
Yeah, and at this stage, though, still so much time left. Is this really the time or the place to be going for these dangerous moves? We're looking especially at DiVincenzo with those dive bombs. Here we go. The 56 here, Vernon Messer, really wanting to get a move on to Alan Hales into the first corner. Is Alan going to fight this is my question. That looks like this move is pretty much signed, sealed, and delivered and into the braking zone. The 74 says, all right, you go, champ. I'll catch up with you a little bit later on in this race. We still got a pit stop. We still got a long ways to go. The 73 into the third corner, getting antsy. We saw this last time around, actually, into turn 3. It didn't work out then, and well, like deja vu, it doesn't work out now.
Have to try something else and get creative elsewhere on the track. I guess the good news for Hales is, yes, he lost that position, but remember, his rival behind him in the points title is another send up the inside from Jeppesen. Is he going to make the corner? Somehow he does. That was from way back, and Trippett probably wasn't even expecting it.
No, I think the door was left slightly ajar, but like the FBI, Josh Jeppesen just kicked it right on down and busted in and took your Wheaties. You hate to see it.
That's certainly a phrase for it, but coming down through turn 8, he's already focused forward on Alan Hales. As I was saying, Hales, he's got to think big picture here. Yes, he probably doesn't want to lose any more points, but Britt Danley, where did they wind up right now? I'm actually trying to find them out there. It is 21st position, and still needs to make a pit stop as well. So it's not like we'll see Danley suddenly rise up the order. That's pretty much where we see Britt Danley racing until they manage to make some overtakes. So yeah, I think Alan Hales needs to maybe just consolidate here, bring it home.
Yeah, especially, I mean, at this stage. Right now, there's really no sense. And even Ed Trippett, I think Ed Trippett's kind of got that memo. At least he's telegraphing that to the other drivers, which might even be why we saw Josh Jeppesen make that very desperate move, what it looked like. I think that might have just been a move to send a message where it's the 14 here looks weak and they are trying to pounce on it, you know? And I mean, that's fair enough. And Ed Trippett kind of doesn't really want to fight it too much. He's just riding the order, and he knows the race will come back to him. Save the tires, save the fuel, and save the brakes. Save everything that you possibly can for the last little bit, because there's still 46 minutes and 37 seconds left to go, and anything can happen in racing, and especially at Road America, it normally does.
Things getting tight once again. That was a great exit from Jeppesen. Again, how much does Hales want to fight this? Because Josh is 100 points behind him. He's extra motivated. He's got little to lose here and needs to be ahead of him. Hales does not fight it hard. He is going to allow him through. He moves down to 6. Jeppesen into the top 5. He's got the bit between his teeth.
One thing I'm just noticing, when did Nick retake the lead of this race? Dave Douglas in second. I clearly have been sleeping. George Poulos,
that was partway through lap 1. Remember, they had swapped back and forth a couple times.
Oh, yes. That's, of course. Paying attention to too much. There's so many changes in positions throughout the field. I do have to say, Road America, this has been an incredible round here for the Porsche Championship, or for the PCA Series, all as a whole. Again, it doesn't matter what category. If you missed the previous races, go back and check it out on the Race Spot YouTube channel. And while you're there, go hit that subscribe button, as it is free. But the pro, the club, the sport has been so extremely close this time. And now, Joe, we get the best view in the house, the onboard shot of DiVincenzo.
Currently sitting in 8th place as he chases on Ed Trippett here. He's also got Andrew Hillman close behind him, and then Robert Galaise as well. This is one of those trains we were talking about earlier where everybody's kind of equidistant, the slipstream, keeping them all close, but unfortunately it's not allowing anybody to quite make their way through, although we are seeing some overtakes, especially from drivers like Jeppesen in this group. And Anthony, definitely not close enough this time up into turn 1, so I think he's going to have to try again a little bit later. I think we've got an opportunity with us hitting the quarter mark of this race to mention our sponsor, Princess Cruises. In fact, they are the 2025 PCA title sponsor. As the official cruise vacation partner of Series 13, they provide exclusive offers, including world-leading itineraries across a fleet of 16 elegant ships, sailing to more than 330 global destinations. Reach out to the PCA concierge team to book your next adventure today by calling 833-679-2188. And just as we finished that, there was a definite attempt from DiVincenzo. I'm not sure if it's going to stick, though. Trippett gets back to the inside up into turn 6. That puts him way off the racing line, that blue, green, and yellow number 420 car. And Hillman almost had a shot at trying to overtake, but couldn't quite get through. He gets another bite of it, though. He's very close here, Mike.
And now side by side, just about, but hesitation is a hole in the head there, and Andrew Hillman knows it, so he decides to not go for it on this occasion. I can't tell as well. Is there a little bit of damage on the front there of the 16, or is that just the livery? It's hard for me to say, but one thing I'm noticing there is Ed Trippett. I think I mentioned earlier that he was kind of maybe looking like a bit of a wounded deer, but no, I think I was clearly getting proven wrong right there, because he is a wolf, and he is here to stay, showing everybody else that he's not to be pushed around.
Love when drivers are willing to get their elbows out like that. By the way, I checked on Hillman on my screen. I do not see any damage visible, so I think he should be okay. If you did think that you noticed anything. Meanwhile, coming up onto the main straight, this is all happening a ways behind our leader. You talked about Paglia and when did he get back into the lead? Well, if anything, it's important to note that he's extending it. It's now 3.5 seconds over Douglas, so he's running away a lap at a time.
Yeah, and this isn't down to strategy. Okay, that was going to be the Anthony DiVincenzo missing his braking zone slightly, it looked like. And now coming under immediate threat into turn 3. Oh my goodness. Okay, again, turn 3, not the best overtaking chance. You can make it happen. You just got to really stick it to your opponent in an aggressive and feisty manner, typically. That didn't allow a good enough run for him, unfortunately, on the way down towards the Marine sweep. I do sense, though, here, this is sort of like watching two heavyweight fighters in the 90s. Heck, two heavyweight fighters. We're watching basically like a WWE Royal Rumble at this stage, and it's just a matter till somebody gets thrown out of the ring.
Anthony went way deep, almost drove himself out of the ring there, coming into turn 5, lost some ground to trip it. But Andrew Hillman was not able to pick up on that and still stays in that 9th spot, at least for the time being. But this has certainly been a fun one in this group. This is all essentially being a fight to try and stay in the top 5, especially now that Jeppesen is starting to run away. So make that top 6 here, which Alan Hales currently holds that one. We watch Hillman down through the kink. Keeps it nice and tidy, doesn't go a little bit too wide like we've seen a few cars do over these last 2 weeks, and off he goes down into Canada Corner.
And a great view there of what I thought was damage. It clearly is just a mustache pretty much on the front of that Porsche in black paint. That's more or less what I was looking at. So gotta love some of the liveries that they have out there. Looking directly ahead of us here for Johan Nye. He's going to be having a great view of the back bumper there of Robert Galis in that kind of leopard stripe, polka dot, yellow and black livery. Lots of effort being put in here. And of course, you gotta love seeing that big old Princess Cruises logo smack dab on the top of the windscreen. It looks great.
In behind Nye is John Kaplan in that sort of brown colored car. Shows himself, but I don't think he's quite close enough down to turn 1. Different lines between the pair of them through that swift uphill right-hander. Then it's back downhill into turn 3. And like you were saying earlier, probably best not to try and pass into here, but to set up the pass on the exit down the Moraine sweep. Not quite a straightaway, but definitely flat out the whole way along.
Yeah, and just trying to use that slipstream. The car ahead punching a hole in the air here, the size of a Porsche, which is rather convenient considering that there's a Porsche right behind. And oh my goodness, almost a little bit too far behind there for a moment. In too deep, not quite. John Kaplan firmly in control of his machine here, wrangles it back under, and now it's going to be a little bit before we get to another overtaking chance, and he's just going to have to settle in for the roller coaster ride ahead.
I was looking up and down on my timing screen to see kind of who's been big movers here, and it looks like I'd say Adam Holland, just a bit behind this group, has probably got the most gained at this stage, up 12 positions after qualifying in 27th. There he is now, the Upper Canada Region driver. Looking for a pretty good finish. I imagine some of these were due to the incidents that we saw from other cars, but you take them how you can get them.
Yeah, you certainly do. And a position gain's a position gain. Looking at Ed Trippett as well. He is getting a solid amount here in that top 10. He's gained 8 positions. Anthony DiVincenzo up 9. Of course, the further up the order you go, the more difficult it gets. And looking at some of those that maybe had some falters tonight, De Silva as well as Souza. You see Torreggiani. He also had a not great day all on his own there. And Kevin Hammond getting collected in that as well. Battle on, though, here between Trippett and Hales. This is going to be Trippett trying to make that 8 positions gain, turn it into a 9. Let's see. Down into turn 1. Late onto the brakes. No, not quite. Maybe going to set it up for 5.
We were saying earlier how Hales needs to consolidate. He needs to just bring it home, but he can't keep bleeding positions away. So at some point, he is going to have to fight. Trippett going to force him to do so here, it looks like, as he gets close behind. And then, of course, they've also got Anthony DiVincenzo in behind them as well, just complicating things for Ed Trippett, of course, because you're having to both attack and defend at the same time as they come down to the braking of turn 5. The 420 car is very strong on those brakes. He regained a ton of ground.
Yeah, really pushing him along here. And now Ed Trippett with a new license plate on the back, and this is not what he wants to see. He needs to get by right now of Alan Hales and put a car in between the two, get a little bit of breathing room. As you said, he's being attacked and having to attack simultaneously. That's a lot of brain power to be used. We also know, I think Ed Trippett, he's running in VR, if I'm not mistaken, or at least he was in the past. And so adding just another one of those roles, he is going to be sweating like a cow in a burger joint, quite literally at this stage.
That's, as he takes it down through the kink, he needs a good exit right here to keep himself ahead of that 420. It's a great run from Anthony. What's Edward going to do to defend, or will he defend? He's going to leave the door open. No, he drifts off to the inside just a little bit, but didn't need it, as Anthony was not able to take the apex away. Even still, things getting dicey here in this group. You can't try and leave yourself vulnerable out of those corner exits onto the long straightaways. You really got to get that throttle down. And again, it does look like Ed is struggling a little bit here, Mike. He's not as quick.
No, not quite. And while he has the slipstream, it's an accumulative effect down into the first corner. This is going to be the best advantage for DiVincenzo. Is he going to commit, though? I don't think so on this occasion. You really got to be close. You need to be at least fully, not fully alongside, but somewhat alongside as you're getting to the braking zone if you do want to commit to that first corner move. It's the corner coming up. That's the one that you can make the dive bomb on. And I think that's where Ed Trippett here, he is going to be feeling the pressure. DiVincenzo now side by side onto the outside line. It is to be said, favorable run here for Ed Trippett. Can he go late on the brakes? No, he's going to go very early on the brakes, in fact, and give the position up there without a fight. Very intelligent decision making as he cuts back the 420 deep there and back onto the runway. He still has to give it up, but it was a valiant fight back, no doubt.
If I've noticed anything being a weakness for DiVincenzo, it's that he seems to outbrake himself pretty frequently down into turn 5. He just about gave that position right back to Trippett, sending it in hard into that left-hander. But he held him off this time, and Trippett sees the back of that machine start to get a little bit smaller in the windscreen. So can he go catch on Alan Hales, who's the next one up the road ahead of him, who has used this opportunity to try to pull away and get himself at least a little breathing room and not have to be constantly under attack? Because it seems like since the drop of the green, Hales has been doing nothing but having to watch those mirrors.
Yeah, both him and Ed Trippett both have really just been under pressure this entire time, and now Ed, I feel like he's getting a bit of breathing room and saying thank you, but not the same luxury for Hales just yet. Same could be said as well for our race leaders, Nick and Dave. They're both, look at the gaps that have extended there. 5 seconds up at the top and an 11-second gap from George Poulos to Dave Douglas. So just all the way around, our top 2 has pretty much disappeared here into the sunset here at Road America. Let's see, though, Ed Trippett looking to go straight into the side mirrors, into the first corner. Side by side with DiVincenzo, he's going to back out. I thought he was going to have that one done here, but Ed Trippett, he's a very intelligent man. He's, I don't think, forcing this one along. Maybe just trying to get into the head here of the 420.
Could be that. Just looking for the right opportunities, not risking the car, especially seeing how much Anthony is struggling in some of the braking zones, or at least is maybe just a bit too aggressive in the braking zones is the way to put it, because he is very deep on them, but he doesn't always overshoot the corner. And this time they're going to stay as they were. Anthony in 7th, Edward in the 8th position. The only driver in the top 10 that is where they started is Nick Paglia, who started on the pole. He's now up to about 5.5 seconds ahead and continues to stretch it. It is looking good, but as you said, it's a long race. There's a lot that can happen.
And still a pit stop phase to come. Anything can go wrong there. Here is Johan Nye forcing a move where maybe, I don't know if it should have been. I don't think it looked like there might have been contact. Still continuing the side-by-side, though, and having to back out there was Robert Galis. But with that move, we'll have to catch a little replay of that to see exactly what unfolded here. The pressure, though, it's not done just yet. Robert under pressure from John Kaplan immediately.
Been seeing a lot of that, having to really watch both sides, but I don't think he's close enough coming down to the Canada corner. Galaise is very deep on his binders. He'll make the apex and still hold on to that 11th spot. I'm sure he'll want to get back on top of Johan Nye once again, see if he can make an attack, but still that brown car, the number 4, is putting the pressure on, making sure that attention has to be paid to that rear view mirror. Up the hill we go once again, but I'm not seeing anybody with any significant advantage in momentum.
These guys cannot afford to fight right now. This would just be ridiculous if they started battling. They look at this, they have a three-way pack right in their rearview mirror. This three-way, or these two three-way fights are going to turn into a six-way pretty much as soon as they start to tangle. This was that move that we were looking at, and there was no contact. So just hard racing all the way around between the two of them, and you love to see a little bit of gloves off action, don't you, Joe?
Indeed, great move there by Nye to see that happening and be able to pick up the pieces as soon as the opportunity presented itself. Did see Moody just come down pit lane, and I don't think that is for a black flag of any sort, so he must be a very early taker. Granted, it is almost at the halfway point, which is when we tend to see drivers who are trying to split it up evenly come in here. So about 31 minutes left. That doesn't seem too outrageous as we get a little bit of cloud cover as well today, it looks like.
Yeah, making that track temp maybe cool down just a little bit. Is that going to play a role? Potentially. Maybe that's why we just saw Galaise go wide and now come under grips here of John Kaplan. I mean, he was already in that fight, but you saw he kind of took the, you might go and say he took the, what's the, in Formula E, the, oh goodness, I had it on the head. I just lost
attack
it. Either
mode.
way, attack mode. Yes, he was trying to activate attack mode. That's what it looked like. Running deep through the turn 4 there and just trying to pick up a little bit more, but no. Not going to find it, and through it they continue on. And looking at this little pack again, the gloves come on, they come off, and once we get to this pit phase, I'm going to be very interested to see who the first taker is. And well, on cue, is that Josh Jepson or is that Alan Hales that just came into pit lane? It's Messer. It's neither of who I said.
Well, even still, he's a front runner, pitting significantly earlier. We'll see if he comes out in traffic. But yeah, the reason we've switched over to Hales here is because DiVincenzo was very close into the braking of Canada corner and just about had it side by side. So Hales, once again, having to go onto the back foot. He had a gap to these drivers, and yet he seems to have let it slip away already. Just doesn't seem to have the pace today, which kind of connects to what I was saying about his qualifying and his practice. It seems like he's just not as quick around this place as he was at other tracks.
No, but that's where you got to go for the alternate strategies here. So maybe a pit stop on this lap would work. Heck, maybe waiting for a couple laps to do a pit stop and going for that overcut. That could also play. I don't think so. I think the tires are going to be a role here for the most part in terms of lap times. Best lap set by Nick was a 2:05.6. He's currently lapping in the 2:06.6s. So he's lost about a second in pace despite getting lighter on fuel. And that's pretty much the same around the board, unless your name is George Poulos. Then you are a tire management specialist, and your fastest lap time is 0.2 slower than your previous.
Also, Messer came out with a 15-second gap ahead of him. So yeah, he found some clear air for sure, and should be able to put some good laps in from here. With this halfway over, let's give another shout out to Princess Cruises because they're the 2025 PCA title sponsor. As the official cruise vacation partner of Series 13, they provide exclusive offers, including world-leading itineraries across a fleet of 16 elegant ships, sailing to more than 330 global destinations. Reach out to the PCA concierge team to book your next adventure today by calling 833-679-2188. So Messer, as we said, has taken his pit stop. Delays, it looks like, has taken a scheduled stop, both of them roughly 18 seconds. Now, we've seen wide variations on these pit stops in the previous races, and we'll have to talk about that in a second because Hale still has DiVincenzo and Trippett distracting us as well, making sure we can't take our eyes off this battle.
I'm very surprised, though, that nobody came into pit lane in this pack. That pit stop, I would have thought from Suzos would have kind of started a trickle-down effect, or from Messer, excuse me. I would have thought would start that trickle-down effect, everybody coming into lane on, not this lap, but starting that alternate strategy play. Here we go, though. It's going to be the alternate lane choice for the 420, and down to the inside, it looks like he's overcooked it slightly, managed to keep all four tires between the mayo and the mustard, and that is move done and dusted. The 74 down a position as a result. DiVincenzo up into fifth.
I think the lesson here is that if you've got DiVincenzo in your mirror and he looks close coming into a heavy braking zone, either cover that off or expect him to take the apex away from you. He is very brave. In fact, I'm pretty sure if we check the car after this one, that brake pedal is probably completely through the firewall. But it's working out for him. He's got about 4 seconds to catch up to Josh Jepson, so that will be a task, but we'll see if he's up for it now that he's got the clear air ahead of him. Hale's down to 6th at this stage. The good news is, even though he's been losing positions, he's still a +5 from where he started on the grid.
Yeah, not a bad day whatsoever for Alan Hales. He definitely cannot be disappointed with this result, especially with his championship rival. Wow, that's surprising to me. Fair enough. We'll talk about it here in a second. But yeah, Britt Danley, he is so far down now as a result, and this is just going to be a very welcome haul of points for Alan Hales at the end of the day. But very surprising, in my opinion, to see Nick Paglia down into the lane on this lap, Joe.
Jepson in 2. It is 25 minutes left to go, and from what we've seen in the previous races, about 22 to 21 minutes is the max. So again, it's not super early, but still kind of interesting. What's happened with Vernon Messer here? Oh, has a moment, and then bounds through the grass. Thankfully, maybe just lost a couple seconds there, and I doubt he took much damage, if any, out of that one. In the meantime, let's see, we're checking back in with the 144. Where are they sitting right now? This is Adam Holland. Yeah, this is 9th.
Yeah, down in 9th right now. Holland just having a nice little chill day and trying to keep alive right now for the most part with the drivers around. He's got Alex Lidback ahead in 8th. Stefan Danley behind, well, Britt Danley behind in 10th. Britt really carving his way back through the field. Of course, the reason that is because that a lot of drivers have had that pit stop. We have to still see that from Bradley. We have to see that from Holland and everybody up at the top. And this lap, you should expect to see most. As Joe was saying, 21 minutes is kind of the expected longest window. But we will find out here very shortly, won't we?
Also, we got a speeding penalty, I think, for John Kaplan. Either that, or did he have an unsafe pit exit? Yeah, I think it was a speeding penalty. It looks like, because he's got a black flag, and that's definitely not from race control. That's within the sim itself, so it's automatically handed out, and it's binary. There's no way that you can avoid it and argue your case. Either you were over the speed limit or you were not, and he's going to suffer for that one because he's already taken his pit stop. So he's going to have to make another visit down pit lane. Paglia, by the way, his call worked out decently. About a 6-second gap in front of him. Should be able to get some good laps in here. But it was a 20-second stop, so a little bit slower than some of the others that we saw out there. It's not going to be the slowest we've seen over these 2 weeks, but might hurt him in the end if Dave Douglas is able to get a quick one. DiVincenzo and Trippett both now down on the lane.
Yeah, that might hurt him, but that also could have just been him playing it safe, too, and just making sure everything goes right. You know, the one thing we see, especially, that guarantees that he doesn't pick up that pit lane penalty, that speeding and pit lane penalty, and whew, look at this camera angle. I'm loving this shot right here with the Princess Cruises livery showcased absolutely brilliantly. Ed Trippett here gonna get going soon. That's DiVincenzo leaving pit lane. Ed Trippett a little bit slower out of the box, but he'll be catching up here very shortly once they get up to speed. Oh, and here we go. We're gonna be joining immediately, Joe, into the line of fire.
Yeah, that's Messer. Oh, and I think DiVincenzo managed to jump him because he was behind before the pit stop. This worked out better for the 420 car. He gains at least one position in the sequence.
And that, of course, comes down to that little incident that we saw. Vernon Messer going for the spine buster in the grass, losing crucial tenths, and that's the result. Now a position down and a lot of hard work ahead of him.
It's got to be frustrating. By the way, we should see most everybody else come in. I think we're just missing about 9 cars or so that need to visit pit lane, including our temporary leader, Dave Douglas, who now dives in front of us, and Poulos will follow him as we continue to watch on DiVincenzo here, running 11th. But I think might be a net top 5 after all is said and done. Again, he just pushes the limits a bit too hard in some of these corners, missed that apex by a wide margin.
You have to focus on the tarmac ahead of you right now. Quit looking in the rearview mirror. You can't drive looking backwards. You just have to worry about your own race. That driver behind is just that. They're just a driver behind you, and you just need to focus it in that way. However, of course, it's very difficult to, I guess, easier said than done, I should say. When we're in the commentary seat, it's one thing. When you're behind the wheel and you see a very aggressive posturing Porsche in your rearview mirror, it's hard to not go defensive. Thankfully there we saw DiVincenzo just hold his line, drive on the racing line, and let them force the issue for them. And it didn't work out. This time is just DiVincenzo staying consistent and staying, well, I don't know. What does he have to do at this point to keep this position, Joe?
I feel like he's definitely going to have to do a little bit of defending as things go, but I'm with you that he needs to focus forward. He needs to work on his own race here to try to hit those marks. By the way, Paglia returned into the lead pretty much where he left off. It was about the same pit stop time for Dave Douglas, so it all worked out in the end. George Poulos, though, was 2 seconds quicker. Well, actually almost 2.5 seconds. So he's into third here. Lisa Eskridge is very good on fuel, apparently, because she has not pitted yet. And she's all the way up to fourth, which means DiVincenzo is going to be fourth place after pit stops are over. Wow.
Yeah, that is a lot of positions for them. I'm curious if we could put the positions gained at this point. We're going to have some massive movers and shakers throughout the entirety of it. Lisa Eskridge, the elephant sitting on the top of our head, of course, with 16 positions gained. That will change, folks, don't worry. But the one that isn't going well, I guess the one that will change, but only in the positive direction, is Anthony DiVincenzo. 12 positions gained right now, and it's going to be a 13th very quick.
That has been an impressive drive out of that 420 car. Oh no, Lisa Eskridge off in the kink just before her pit stop, so at least she will have that spare car waiting for her when she gets there, but that is some definite lost time.
Not how I wanted Anthony DiVincenzo to pass Lisa Eskridge. Thankfully, it doesn't happen this time. Lisa, with a slight little lapse in judgment, the back end overtook the front, smacked the wall, got back on circuit. All things considered, not the worst time loss. As you said, Joe, coming back into pit lane, there's one spare car. You just got to nail your marks. Make sure you come into pit lane at speed. Don't pick up a penalty. Here is an onboard replay. Shield your eyes if you're a Lisa Eskridge fan. This is going to be a severe case of too much liftoff. I was going to say right throttle, but Joe, that's the opposite of what you would expect.
Yeah, interesting that it got loose there at the end. So Drivers need to watch out for that as the tires start to go off towards the end of this race. This is not the only race that we're covering here on Race Spot TV. We've got the 6 Hours of Spa coming up, a new Operation Motorsports. Let's take a look at what's in store.
Spinning into the westward chute.
That's right. Operation Motorsports is going to be doing 6 Hours of Spa, a fan favorite and driver favorite, and it'll be hosted by PCA Sim Racing. Operation Motorsport benefit event will, as we said, be a 6-hour race on Sunday, May 4th, and don't miss more action at Spa-Francorchamps. If you want more information, you'll go to pcasimracing.com/Opmo6hours. Or if you want to register and take part, head on over to tinyurl.com/Opmo2025 and you can race in the Operation Motorsport event. Other cool thing that's going to be happening later this year is Operation Motorsport expanding to North America as well. They have their endurance event over in the UK typically every year. VIR will be the first over on this side of the pond to host that a little bit later on, I believe in November, if I remember correctly.
VIR, what a track. Here we go, though. We're jumping on board right now with an incredible battle. Back at it again. Look at this, Adam Hall and Josh Jeppesen. Let's see who's going to have it on this occasion. It is going to be, well, looks like advantage here to Josh Jeppesen, or excuse me, Josh Jeppesen. The car is still leading, and well, back onto the background is the 86. Welcome, Mr. Stefan Danley, or well, should I say, of course, Britt Danley. Yes.
Yeah. and I'm glad that you brought up Jeppesen, though. What happened in the pit stops? I'm looking at the time, and it is a little bit slower than the others, maybe about 1 or 2 seconds. But Jeppesen was running around 5th, around where Messer was. He's now sitting in 10th. We must have missed something.
No, yeah. I mean, everything. Yeah, I have no idea. Here we go. Is this a little bit of a catch of exactly what happened? Here we go. Unforced, Joe. You hate to see it. Oh, gosh. That is one of the most terrifying positions to be in as a driver.
Man, so frustrating. I guess it all comes down to you got to keep it on the black stuff and keep it facing forward, because there have been many drivers who would have had way better finishes if not for the mistakes that they have brought upon themselves today. But don't make the mistake of missing out on our sponsor today. Of course, Princess Cruises, the 2025 PCA title sponsor. And as the official cruise vacation partner of Series 13, they provide exclusive offers, including world-leading itineraries across a fleet of 16 elegant ships, sailing to more than 330 global destinations. Reach out to the PCA concierge team to book your next adventure today by calling 833-679-2188. We are into the final quarter of this one now, Mike. We've had all the pieces put into place earlier on. Everybody's executed on their strategy. Now it comes down to having to make those passes on track.
Yeah, this has been a real bang-up race for some, but a real solid race for others. All things considered, Road America is a track that never fails to deliver, no matter how you want to look at it. If you're here for the thrills, it's going to happen. If you're here for the stills, well, it's also going to have plenty of those. And still, with 13 and a half minutes left, don't go anywhere, because anything can happen in motor racing, and it normally does. Let's see. Martin Messer here trying to gain a position over the biggest first overtaker and I think driver of the day for most, Anthony DiVincenzo. And this man, we've seen him on the aggression for pretty much the entirety. This is really the first time I think we've had to see him on the defense.
Yeah, I feel like he's had a bit of it when he was stuck in the packs, but now it's just mano a mano out there, and I'm relishing this. Like to see how this is going to wind up. Both of them go deep, but deeper for Vernon, and kicks up a little dirt and grass in the process. He's going to have to challenge hard. If Anthony's anything like his attacking skills are, his defense is going to be one tough nut.
It's going to be a hard one to crack here. He's going to need the force of 1,000 Titans, and does he have it? That's what we're going to find out in the next 12 and a half minutes. And well, right now, this doesn't look that good. What's happening to Vernon? Messi is slowing. I wonder, was that a slowdown penalty that he just faced for cutting? I don't think it was that deep, and I doubt you're getting a slowdown penalty there.
Yeah, I went back and checked, and it's highly unusual to be able to get a slowdown penalty out of the kink, for one thing, and I don't see anything there. So that is a bit bizarre and costly too, because he was so on the attack there. He needs to be right up to that bumper once again. Trip it. Can't seem to get away from the action. It's with Hales this time for a top six. Allen still can afford to lose positions and have a net positive from where he qualified, but any extra points will be hugely helpful for him today. Does not want to give them up.
No, especially when he's really now in the fight with Britt Danley, I would say at this point. This is where he's going to be gaining massive amounts, and every single point matters. We just have, 2 more rounds left here in this championship till we get down to the finals at Imola and decide it all. There's one drop round in this championship, which is going to add a little bit of padding. Ed still has a comfortable drop round to use as well, so he's looking very solid heading into the dying embers of this season, this PCA Season 13. Is this going to be the lucky number for him?
You know, I went and checked to see what this would mean for Douglas as well, between him and Hale, since Douglas is kind of far back, but at least in the points championship, but he's in second right now with a very good race. It'll be a 70-point swing between the pair of them. So considering he was, 100 points behind at the start of this race, that'll put him in prime position with 2 races to go to challenge. Now, it all really depends on where the rest of his rivals wind up after this race points-wise, and that's a little bit too complicated for my math right now on my hands and toes as we switch back over to a nice little fight between Alex Lidback and Antonio da Silva.
A nice little picture-in-picture fight here, and the napkin math, I agree, is too difficult. Even if I was one of the computers behind the scenes, I don't envy them, because this is going to be so difficult to call, and every single penalty, every single off track at a certain point matters. And look at this, we have 2 3-way fights boiling up right now. Who is that in the background joining us, potentially a fourth? Is that? No, that can't be Torrigiani.
That is Torrigiani, but he is 6 laps down, so he's not a part of the battle. However, I thought you were going to talk about Britt Danley, who might get another position here watching on the top screen. Good run on Adam Holland. What a recovery drive. Up to 12th place, almost 11th here, depending on how this pass goes into turn 1. Has the inside, should be able to take the apex away, but has to keep it tidy. Deep on the brakes, the multicolored car gonna move into 11th.
That is a textbook move if I've ever seen one. The 144, thinking about coming back into turn 3. That's never going to happen in a million years. But what a move. Despite the fact that the 86 had to break that slipstream and pull out to the inside line, it was not enough. They still got the job done. Laid onto the brakes, full send baseball, and there is no way we're going to see Jeppesen drop that. Great little move there to move him up into the top 10 here. And with Johan Nye up ahead, and let's see how long it takes him to get that done.
Wait, definitely wrong range. I mean, no, it's in. Jeppesen is only a second ahead, so I think it's very possible to catch up to him. Oh, in the meantime, looks like Delays loses another spot. That was Brad Dunn going by for 16th. It's kind of falling apart for the 809. Oh, it really fell apart. So that's why they were close together. He got helped off the track.
a little too close together, you would say. So we kind of caught just the back end of that crash. Not sure exactly what led up to it, but the results are the same nonetheless. Both cars losing massive amounts of time, and the engineers and the mechanics, when they come back to the garage, are not going to be too happy. Scratching their heads at that one, I would imagine. But let's join back here with our current champion leader. And as we get down to the end of this one, potentially is not going to be leading this championship. It's Alan Hales. The math is too hard to call at this stage right now, but if Ed Trippett can get this position, well, it's going to make that math just that much harder for Alan Hales.
Yeah, it definitely won't be Britt Danley. And Jeppesen is also behind Hales right now. Ed Trippett is fourth in the points, about 110 points behind. So Trippett, even if he does pass him, definitely not going to overtake him. I'm not sure if, Poulos is a maybe. Douglas and Poulos could potentially overtake him in the points, but I don't think it'll be by much if they wind up managing to do that. If anything, I was kind of looking at Britt Danley's race here to see where they sit, and I think this was helped along by so many other drivers having issues, because it looks like it's about 35 seconds up to third place, which I think if all things considered, if Britt continued to have pace, probably would have been around that part. So they lost a lot of time. And it's not that they gained much of it by passing, which they did get a lot of that. I think so much of it was they just buckled down and had a nice clean run while everybody else around them faltered.
Driving with a chip on his shoulder, I would imagine, was Britt Danley. After being rudely punched in the face, he says, "I'm coming back for more," and that he did. Well, maybe not quite yet. He's still got a ways to go. Not in the top 10 just yet, but almost in gripping distance of it. It was top 20 conversations about an hour ago, and so now I think that all things considered, this is a race that Britt Danley can at least pat himself on the back on and said, "I made the best of a bad situation."
Is gaining on Jeppesen. It's down to 0.8 of a second, but I don't know if it'll be enough. We're down to 6 minutes to go, so maybe 3 laps left. Yeah, 3 laps left, because Paglia has already gone through, which, by the way, is now up to about a 7.5 second gap to second place. Dave Douglas on board with Adam Holland now. This is just behind Britt Danley. Maybe going to try and follow up the road. Oh, no, Danley goes off course, loses momentum at a critical moment on the lap, coming up the hill, tries to cover the inside, leaves just enough of it open, drifts back to the middle. Holland will choose to go to the outside anyways and try to make the overtake the hard way around into turn 1. But a little bit of deeper braking from Britt Danley will hold on to that 11th spot, at least for the time being.
Hanging on just by a thread. And as we go into turn 3, the 144, looking for a needle in a stack of needles if you're going to go for the overtake there. That is never going to happen. This, though, the run down towards turn 5. Blink in turn 4 and you miss it. Let's see, are we going to be close enough this time around? I don't think so, but we're going to leave the gap wide open still, though. Despite the fact that Rexy looks very, very hungry to go down the inside of any car, it's not going to work out in that manner on this occasion. Still, though, with 4.5 minutes left to go, this is where we start to see the desperate sends, the desperate measures, maybe you would say, starting to come into play.
And for Britt, that mistake also was costly because the top 10 no longer looks feasible. It's up to a 1.5 seconds. Unless there's a mistake out of Jeppesen, just don't see the pace being good enough for Danley to be able to get up to that 73 car. So it's probably a rear guard from here on out. Just across the line. Ooh, this is going to be close here. Running 205s. Okay, so we actually have 3 laps to go now, potentially, I think.
We get a nice little look here at our leader. I think this is the first time we've seen them in the past 55 minutes, give or take. So you love to see it. Hey, Nick Paglia getting some screen time. Our current race leader, everybody, by 6 or 7.5 seconds. It's been a day for Nick. It's been a bit of a hot lapping session, you might say.
Trying to figure out where Nick even is in our points tower. Has he been racing this season? Hold on, let me check.
That's a good shout now that you mention it. Brand new to the championship and a debut victory. I thought that name seemed unfamiliar.
Yeah, I didn't recall seeing earlier, although I know I've missed a few here and there, so figured maybe it was just one of those that I wasn't around for. So yeah, Nick really putting the marker down in the sand here with first race in the challenge class. So we come back to this fight that is ongoing between Trippett. Well, it was with Hales. Hales is running away. Now it's Trippett, Hillman, and Nye, actually. So Trippett on the back foot a little bit, trying to keep 7th.
He can just not catch a break tonight at Trippett. He's gone up the field, he's gone down the field, he's gone back up the field, he's gone back down the field. He's a yo-yo at tonight, and I would imagine he's going to have a smile on his face, all things considered. This has been a very exciting one. This is what you're out there for when you're one of these drivers. You live, you breathe the racecraft, and especially with the amount of talent that's on display here in PCA, in every single one of these championships, might I add. This is, by the way, the quote-unquote slowest category or lowest quality racing, however you want to put it. This is not low quality racing by any stretch of the imagination. So if you're enjoying this, go check out the other classes, because again, every single one of them is a humdinger of a time.
Can confirm we have 2 laps to go. Paglia just crossed the line with about 2:11 left, so that's plenty to get around before the checkered flag. And yeah, no, this is the way they sort the drivers has nothing to do with the quality of the racing. It is purely on pace, and we were talking about this before we came live. What a wonderful job they do with that. It's a very awesome method where they essentially kind of get rid of outlying laps and then average out everybody's laps over the course of the entire season. And it winds up putting drivers that are pretty close on pace with one another. And that's why you see everybody still have these hard battles even an hour into this event as we continue to ride on board down into turn 1. Here with Andrew Hillman in the red and white. That is Trippett just in front of us. And yes, it might be the slowest of the 4 classes that we cover here on Race Spot, but like you said, it means the world to these drivers. They are still fighting tooth and nail, as we're going to see here with Messer.
Messer to the outside line of turn 5. This is going to be a bit off angle, having to have a really awkward rejoin there. All that momentum gone, and now we're going to see, I think, that battle having to resume a little bit later. Back down with Hillman, Trippett here, and now Johan Nye in the background as we have a 3-way fight here as we get ready to come on to the final lap here tonight, Joe.
This will be a good one. This is all for 7th amongst this group. Oh, no, maybe make it 6. Yeah, okay, we can start to see Alan Hales in front of them. They're regaining ground. That'll be a tough ask, although Johan Nye seems up for it as he tries to stick his nose in down through the carousel to see if he can make anything happen, although it's rare you see passes there. Maybe Canada Corner. That is a much more common spot. We just got the white flag for Nick Paglia. 1 to go. And there, big look up the inside by Messer once again. Anthony DiVincenzo has got his work cut out for him on the final lap.
This is the last gasp here from Vernon Messer. He made his mistake earlier, and now that he has it, he's going to have to try to make it back up. He went a little deep off the track after the pit stop phase, caught a bit of a spine buster, and now, after that, Anthony DiVincenzo came out ahead. Is he going to turn it around, put the shoe on the other foot down this straight? I don't think so, no. He's a little too far away. It's going to have to more than likely be turn 5, Joe, but we're running out of time. We're running out of tarmac.
Absolutely. This is it. Last chance to try and make it happen. Messer still holding tight to him. DiVincenzo trying to fight hard. And the other thing we haven't touched on, did everybody get their fuel right as well? If you're a little bit shy, that's going to make defending all the more difficult for some of our drivers. Is this another good run from Vernon? The gray machine just stalking in the background. And he's, not going to be close enough coming down to the braking of turn 5, at least this time.
This is your real last chance here coming up, and we're running out of time. We're running out of corners, down into 6, no dice to be found, and now here we go into the carousel sector. This is, I think, going to be it, as now I think Nick Paglia getting ready into the final sector here. Are we going to see the desperation sign? Hold that thought, the 56. No, just moving left, moving right, and it's deep for DiVincenzo. The pressure is mounted, and without contact, he's been using the force was used and shoved him off the circuit.
Real sad to see him lose it right there at the end, but not sad for Nick Paglia. He is going to be one to watch for the rest of Series 13 because he comes in with a splash and a win in the number 29 here at Road America.
Behind him, Dave Douglas just taking the checkered flag now. George Poulos with a great third position, and that'll be a welcome haul of points for him. Vernon Messer fourth, and down into fifth for DiVincenzo. He's going to be happy at that result, and despite the fact of losing the position at the end, it was still a great race with the most positions gained.
I think we're going to have to start calling him Deep Vincenzo. In fact, he just went off again. You can see him up the way as there's a huge fight behind him. He's going to lose more. He's out of fuel. He's out of fuel. That was the problem. He'll have just enough, I think, to creep to the line, but he's going to lose a lot of positions. Hales moves up to fifth, barely beating Trippett to the line by less than 1/10 of a second. And DiVincenzo just crosses in 12th place. Absolutely gutting.
I take back what I said 5 seconds ago about him being proud. That was an unfortunate time to say that. Here we go. The battles are not done yet, and that is going to be David Moody. Made a great little send there on by. And no, wait, never mind. That's entirely still out of fuel. Less impressive when the car doesn't have the ability to fight back, I suppose. He's not making up the line.
No, he's absolutely not. That's barely enough to get over the crest of Bill Mitchell Bend. So he won't be able to complete all on the lead lap. In fact, I think it's going to be Lisa Eskridge, our last driver, on the lead lap of our 32 starters here today. There's Marco Souza as well, coming up to get himself a top 20. Unfortunately, starting in 7th. That is going to be a disappointing result for the 704. And that is it for today's race. But let's go through our finishing order. Paglia, your winner by about 7 seconds over Dave Douglas, who I don't think is going to have the points lead, but is going to be so much closer. Same thing with George Poulos, who gets a podium. Look at the gap behind those top three. Vernon Messer, 37 seconds behind, but still gets 4th. Alan Hales, P5, and Ed Trippett in 6th. Johan Nye, P7. Andrew Hillman, 8th. Josh Jeppesen, 9th. And Britt Danley has to settle for 10th.
Adam Holland just bringing up 11th position with Anthony DiVincenzo in a gutting 12th place finish, running out of fuel before the line. James Longo in P13 with Alex Lidback in 14th. Brad Dunn coming home 15th here tonight with Jeffrey Block behind him in P16. David Moody 17th with Rob Gerwing in P18. 19th belonging to Jack Stevenson, and rounding out your top 20, Robert Galais.
From there, 21st goes to Antonio Da Silva, Marco Souza 22nd, and Lisa Eskridge 23rd. Ben Whitehurst will be 24th. Ken Hammond, 25th for him. Carl Besson, 26th, and Jim Garamati, 27th. John Kaplan, 28th, and Keith Markison down in 29th. Aubrey Iyer, 30th, and just a couple more cars to round it out with Terreggiani multiple laps down, 31st. Chimples, 32nd. And then I think McCune may have been a did not start for today's race. Oof, okay. Well, we've got a chance to talk to Nick after that impressive run, clinical, up at the top of the field. Let's see how he felt about it. Nick, from our understanding, was this your first race in the challenge class today?
It was. It's kind of unfair. I was downgraded from sport last season because I really didn't do well, and I wasn't participating on a regular basis, and I just happened to jump in, and my schedule allowed, and it's my favorite track in the U.S. So here we are.
Well, I mean, unfair or not, you have to say you were presented with the opportunity. You didn't waste it. You come away with the win. How did it feel out there? Was it all pretty smooth sailing up front?
I mean, it may have looked it, but it was tough to stay focused. It's a long race, and that's the first time I've pit in a really long time. And I was kind of panicking about it. I almost took 4 tires by accident, so I felt kind of cool after that, after I got through the pit stop, but getting to that point was a little nerve-wracking.
You mentioned your schedule, had to allow you to race. Will we see you back for the Hungary run? Because, I mean, you got to follow up a performance like this.
Yeah, I'm going to try my best to make the last 2 races. They're great tracks, great competition, and I hope I can make it.
We hope so, too. Congratulations on the win today, Nick.
Thank you so much, and thank you guys for all the work that you do. Thanks PCA for putting this on. I know it's really hard to do things like this, and I appreciate every moment of it.
Was Nick Paglia, victor here at Road America. And then that's going to take us to second place. Mike has caught up with Dave Douglas.
Yes, indeed. Dave Douglas, a nice and trivial second position today. But all things considered, did it feel that way out on track?
It was more intense than it may have appeared. I know the gaps are significant, but the yo-yoing between me and George was just insane. I would bobble, then he would catch up, and then he would bobble, and I would be able to get a little bit. But it was a very mental thing. And hats off to Nick, man. The man is consistent. I could be a lot more consistent, but fantastic race by Nick. Congrats.
I wanted to talk a little bit about your lap 1 with Nick as well, because that was an exciting little prospect. You sniffed the chance of leading the first lap, but then he just stole it back from you and couldn't take it back after. How was that from your perspective?
Well, I mean, one of the big things we talk about in PCA and especially in Challenge is making sure we take care of our car. And Nick had pace for me from the beginning at practice and in qualifying. So I was pretty sure even if I got in front of him, I would probably regret it. And so what was more important was taking care of the car and making sure I could last the whole hour. And if Nick ran into something or had other issues, I'd get the spot. But it was more important to protect the car.
That definitely was shown in both your driving performances and George's, to be fair, tonight. Everyone really going for those safe driver points. Hungaroring up next, a little different than the track here today. How do you feel as we get ready to move forward?
Needing to practice. Practice is what makes the difference. My performances in these races are so much better if I actually can find the time to practice between work and other responsibilities. So my work is cut out for me, but I love racing with these challenge folks, and a big shout out and thank you to Michael Patterson and the rest of the instructors who do such a phenomenal job of training us and keeping us positive and focused on getting better each time.
Well, we love to see that too, Dave, as the performances keep getting better and better. And before we move on here tonight, is there anybody that you would like to thank?
Well, besides Michael and Anker Bergensom and Joachim Baker and Rex and the rest of the instructor team, just a big thank you to my family who continues to let me, run the race rig loud and proud and have a lot of fun. It's a big time commitment, but it's a great group of people. So just thanks to PCA, Doug Atkinson, and the rest of the group for making this league a possibility. It's a really fun part of Porsche Club of America.
Absolutely love to hear that. Dave Douglas, everybody. Dave, go enjoy the champagne for the rest of your evening.
Thanks.
That takes us to George Poulos, who comes home in P3 and was an interesting one at the start, Dave or George, because you led for about 4 corners. Could you see the light from there?
It was interesting. I made a mistake, so I gave up the lead, and then I got spun in Canada, so I had a recovery drive there.
Which makes this third place all the more impressive. You finished way ahead of everybody else. Was that kind of a buckle down, focus forward moment for you? Did you get over any frustrations quickly?
I did, and I got lucky. There was some carnage on the kink right in front of me, so 3 people got taken out, and I somehow squeezed through. And then I just had fun trying to chase down Dave.
The championship battle has been interesting in this one as well, because Alan Hales didn't have the greatest days. You and Dave made up a bit of ground on him. What are your thoughts like in the remaining 2 races? Do you have a plan? Do you have an approach that you're going to try to see if you can take a title, or you're not thinking about that?
Just going to take one race at a time, try and qualify well and not make mistakes.
I think that sounds like a wise way to go about it. Again, an impressive drive today. Anybody you want to give a thank you to before we let you go?
As usual, I want to thank our little group, Master MASR, for all the help and the tips.
Excellent stuff there from George Poulos, 3rd place finisher here at Elkhart Lake, which is going to wrap us up. But a reminder that we've got more racing coming here in Series 13, because next time out for the challenge class in 2 weeks, we're going to be at the Hungaroring, and that will be on March 27th. But we will be going there first with the pro class. So make sure and join us next Wednesday night, March 19th, the pro class at the beautiful Hungaroring. And a big thank you goes to the steering committee at PCA Sim Racing, as well as to our team tonight, Hugo and Mike. Also, we want to thank you for tuning in for tonight's broadcast of PCA. I'm Joe Peak, and until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.